Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I would be very grateful if somebody could just tell me that they can see me and hear me okay. At the moment, my viewers appears to be 0, and I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Aha, 25. So we're going up now. Okay, great. So if somebody can just pop in there to say that you, and it doesn't mean to be all of you, just if one of you can just write to say you can hear me and see me fine, that will be great. I won't get going properly until I get that confirmation that the audio and the video are both working fine. Okay, just to get us started, my name is Mark. I'll be talking to you hopefully for about half an hour today. Feel free at any time to ask me questions. I probably won't answer them. Thank you. Thank you very much for saying that you can see me okay. Great. I probably will not answer the questions straight away. I will try not to get derailed on what I have to say, but obviously then I will show the questions up so everybody can see them and answer them to the best of my ability. Just one question, sorry, not one question, one request is try to make the questions relative to the topic today, obviously, which is concerning jobs, rather than about the assignments A, B, C, whichever you're taken. Okay, right. I've been teaching now for about a long time, about 34 years now, I think, something like that. So it has become a life choice. Like most people, I sort of fell into it because I was living abroad and I wanted to stay there on a more permanent basis, and then it has followed me and accompanied me through other things as well. At the moment, apart from doing this work and marking assignments, I work at the Ministry of Defence as well, teaching people from all over, as you can imagine. And I was thinking, actually, this came up yesterday. I was telling my students that I was going to be doing this, and we were talking about what was good about their jobs in the military, and they were saying how the big advantage they get is that they get to meet and get to know people from all over the world. And we kind of agreed that I had the best job of all because I had that and nobody was trying to kill me. So it's been a great job for me, and I hope it will be for you. Obviously, as I'm talking to you, you've got widely different backgrounds and widely different expectations from what you're doing. So some of the time I will be talking about stuff that isn't relevant to your situation. So listen in all the same, I hope. Okay. Right. Everybody's got the idea about what the perfect job, what the perfect location is going to be. And of course, your TEFL certificate will give you the opportunity to travel to countries and places that excite you, but it will also give you the chance to work with people from very different backgrounds, which is one of the most wonderful things that you ever get. And it also allows you to teach either in your home country or from the comfort of your own home. For many of you, being much younger than me, that will sound like something that will be an automatic choice for you, because it's you can work the tech much more easily than I can. Those are kind of some of the possibilities that you'll be looking at, and some of you will probably already have fairly good ideas of where you want to take this in the future. Okay, so we'll just look at a few of these bullet points. Obviously, these are the questions that I suppose what we're looking at today is really making sure that you ask those questions before you go, which of course maximizes the possibilities and the opportunities for you to make a success of where you want to go and what you want to do, and enjoying that and taking the most out of it. I have to say here, I looked at this over the last few days, and I'm not entirely sure I agree with the idea of what is your perfect job. I don't think it exists in the first place. And I think what you're looking at really is to get as close to it as you possibly can. People start thinking about perfection, and I'm not sure they always know what it actually is. I certainly don't myself. So the first question is just discussed: do you want to travel? And this is one where you'll probably very much have your own ideas already. But also, and this is a really important one now, we will delve into this more closely. Where would you like to work? Now, where would you like to work? And talk about, you're not just talking about the location, but you're also maybe talking about the school, which again is something we will dig more deeply into. And I love this question: what would your typical day look like? Are you the kind of person who's happy with a 9 to 5, or do you like working evenings? So, you can have the rest of the evening to enjoy yourself and socialize, and then have a slow start to the day. And what do you need from a job as well? Are you looking to really kick on and to make a substantial amount of money out of it? Or are you looking to do something that's going to broaden your horizons in the next few years before you possibly go on to other things? Or whether it's something that you may stay in for the longer term. So we'll look at these kind of in different different stages in terms of your life in a place, the job, the school, and the other considerations as well. So there will be a kind of linearity to what I'm saying. Okay, but these are the factors that you really would need to consider, and these are more or less the 20 questions. It's an arbitrary number, but it will help to help you make your decisions to where you think you'd like to go and what will work best for you. Okay, so the first question, of course, overseas. Where do you want to, where would you like to move overseas, and where do you want to stay? Also a big question, depending on your age, your outlook, your family, lots of different things. You might decide if you want to move somewhere that's more quiet, or maybe a bigger city, a smaller town, and of course, what would attract you to being there? What do you know about the culture? So what do you know about the culture? Is it something that you already know and you think, yes, I know this culture, I like this culture, and I want to know more about it? Or is it something where, well, I know a little bit, or maybe I studied the language at school, so I've got a basis in it, and then I want to examine it. I want to examine it further. One that is often ignored is, can I eat the food? Not expressed in the most subtle way, but it's a really big consideration. There are plenty of places around the world that really still do not cater for vegetarians, and this, can obviously create huge problems for people. Or places where, frankly, your delicate stomach might not handle the food as well as other people who are more used to it. The climate is a huge one. For example, the Gulf states, very obvious one here, are often the places where you would make the most money, but it's very, very tough to live in a place where any kind of outside exposure to the outdoors is kind of kept as short as possible. And of course, another question: how long can I stay in the country? So you need to know about your visas, which again we will come back to. Always, whatever you think about the culture, or whatever your interest in it is you really always need to make the effort to learn something about the culture and about the local language or languages. Concerning the food, of course, it's not just what the cultural food is, it's a question of whether you can source the type of food where you are staying, which is extremely important as well. Okay. Some of you will be thinking about moving with your family, and that's a huge distinction. Obviously, traveling alone is one thing, traveling with a family is another one. You'll need to really, really know about what their educational, what the educational requirements are, also what the educational provisions are, and what you want for them as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful way of getting your children to learn a further language, and you will find, and it will break your heart, they will learn it much quicker than you do. and then delightfully start correcting your mistakes in the language as well after absolutely no time whatsoever, which they tend not to do particularly politely either in my experience. So different things. Of course, nowadays you may also be able to enroll your children in an online school as well if you're happy to do that. And also you need to think about childcare provisions while you are working as well. So these are all, I think, fairly straightforward things for the moment, but they are things that if you do not do, you can often pay the price for them. And that just what that does, of course, is it doesn't just put you off teaching. It snips away at your opportunities. If you decide that actually the fault is the fault of teaching, it's not. It was the fault of your choices in the first place. Make those choices right, and you'll love everything else that you do as well. Okay, ask yourself what attracts you to a place. If you go on holiday there and you fall in love with a place, ask yourself, and again, really research this, what attracts you to a place in terms of being on holiday there? Is it going to be very different when you're working there as well? That huge difference. There's certainly places in the world that are great for holidaying, but not so great for working, and probably vice versa, although I think I've probably come up with fewer examples of the reverse on that. What's the cost of living? You're going to have to make a budget, and you're going to be clear about what you need, what you're going to get. And I would always say to anybody that's going out to live somewhere else, make sure you got a bit in your pocket as well, one way or the other. If mum and dad offer you a credit card so you can just go to the airport and get yourself home, take it. Don't be too proud. Just take it, just as a backup. Of course, what do you do when you're not working? Again, if you're on holiday, well, if you're on holiday, you may have gone there with friends. What are you going to do when you're now on your own? There's a big difference between the two. And yes, you are going to make friends, which is going to be absolutely wonderful, but not immediately. And this last bullet point, I have to say, I didn't really understand. Do you want to travel to work from home? And I wasn't really sure what to make of that particular bullet point, but I'm assuming that you do think about maybe the distance between your place of work, or between your home and your place of work, and that whether that will be part of your cultural integration or whether it's just going to be something that's a real bind. Worth knowing about. And in particular, we'll come on to this shortly, if you're looking at accommodation, or if the school offers accommodation, find out where it is in relation to where you're going to be working. Okay. Contracts. As always with these things, the devil is in the detail. I will say the majority of schools are great. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. And they have an interest in you being as good as possible, and they have an interest in keeping you as happy as they can in order for you to be as good and as effective a teacher as possible. A disgruntled teacher tends not to be a happy teacher, and therefore an effective teacher, and therefore somebody that will start bringing the students back. But you need to know, of course, what the length of the contract is. 6 months is normal. Normally also with a short period for both sides to announce themselves to be happy with the deal. Is it renewable? Again, most of them are. And what are the number of teaching hours a week? This is a big one, because your number of teaching hours does not equate to the number of hours that you're actually working. So are you paid for admin work? That is to say, lesson plans. If you think of 20 classroom hours as being equivalent to 40 or 50 hours a week, I think you're pretty much in the right area. Despite the fact, I find even now, despite the fact that I've been teaching for X number of years, despite the fact that I'm in a situation where the materials are provided for me, I still find myself working to a very similar proportion between preparation and time in the classroom. And this last couple are kind of interesting. Obviously, the pre-prepared materials helps you greatly. If it's simply a course book, that's something that's worth asking about when you come to interview. Do they work from course books? If they do, great. And do also remember, as I'm sure you've seen in your course contents, just because you've got a course book, it doesn't mean that you don't have to prepare. Nothing. You'll still need to be lifting material, supplementing, bringing things in that are unexpected, and really preparing it all the same. Extracurricular activities are, for me anyway, personally, were always a biggie. If people tell you upfront extracurricular activities, you're going to be expected to stay at the school one evening or maybe work one day a weekend every month, that's fine. If you're happy to do it, that's okay. It's when it's kind of slipped into an interview with, oh, you'll do a few extracurricular activities, you need to know what they are. Other considerations now. Do you have a classroom assistant? Now, this might be useful if you're teaching a class and you don't have any of the language. It's not something I've encountered a great deal, I have to say, so it shouldn't be a deal breaker. But I would say if you've got 30 children, sort of 6 years old, and you don't have any or many words of the language, an assistant would be expected. Different class groups. Now, this can work both ways. There's not really specifically a good or bad to it, but if you have different ones, then obviously you get the wonderful diversity of that. And sometimes you can get classes who restore your faith in human nature when others are quickly taking it away. On the other hand, if you have the same class group, say maybe one in the morning and one in the afternoon, they're two different classes, you can build more of a rapport. And of course, it's easier to prepare because you're often finding that the work that you've done one day is then carrying on to the next, or there's further work that you need to do that you can, and it just makes everything a little bit easier in terms of continuity. You should hope that your lessons are observed because you want to be working for a school where they have sufficient interest to want to check on you, to want to be making sure that you're doing the job. And more importantly than that, and this is always the job of somebody who's observing you in class, helping you, really helping your development. And a mentor, which is a brilliant idea and should really be obligatory in any English school, a senior teacher of some description who will help you through and show you the ropes, and so you're not having to bother the boss to find out what the code is for the photocopy, or just a million things that they can help you out with. Will the work be in different locations? That's kind of one I think I might just check on a little bit later as well, because it sounds a bit odd as it is. Okay, next one. All, of course, big questions. Accommodation. This might be something that you want. It might be something that's offered for the first few months while you find your feet and you're able to move on. Language lessons, obviously, that means for you in the language of the country that you are going to. Medical insurance. If they don't, and that's upfront, that's absolutely fine. Transport. Do you get flights there and back? Completion bonuses. Well, there's actually two kinds of bonuses. There's performance bonuses, remember, if you work a certain number of hours over a month, and the completion bonus, obviously, if you've got a particular contract and you come to the end of it. One of those things that you need to be very, very clear on, and you need to make sure it's in the contract. People airily say, oh yeah, there's a completion bonus, and then you find it's £5 or something like that. You need to know, and it needs to be in the contract in the first place. All things to look at regarding the accommodation. A really, really useful one to look online. I mean, so many things nowadays are really worthwhile looking at online. There's lots of websites where teachers will give feedback on schools that they've worked for, and also the accommodation. If it's a rat-infested hellhole, then there was no, then it's not a place that you want to be going in the first place. And in the same way as you would with any online review, you can sometimes take it with a pinch of salt as well. If the former teacher of a school has written in capitals, then maybe you think, well, actually the school were pretty wise to have noticed a bad one, who wasn't going to deliver what they wanted, and they got rid of them. It could actually be a kind of a good thing for the school, that if you think somebody doesn't sound like they're really suited to the classroom, then fine, they did get rid of them. You can also ask your future employee about bad reviews as well, and the way that they will deal with the criticisms that were made can be extremely instructive as well. Okay, so different things that you're asking if the employer provides. I would expect to interview, certainly if you're going to another country, I would certainly expect the employer to deal with all of these questions. Even if they don't provide them, at least they say up front what's expected of you. If they don't provide medical cover, then they should be saying to you, we don't do this, and we expect you to provide it for yourself, and we expect you to have this provided for yourself before you come here. Things like that. I think it's important that you're having open conversations with a future employer about these things, rather than having to go to ferret out that information in the first place. It's all very instructive as to the mindset of the place that you're going to work at, or possibly deciding not to. Agencies, another big one. Aren't they all big ones, really? A commission. Does the commission, if you're going via an agency, who pays the agency? If it's 10%, and again, if the school is upfront that you will be paying that, it will come straight out of your salary and go straight to the agency for the first 6 months or something like that, then that's absolutely fine, and it helps you to make your decisions. Visa assistance, well, that's, I think, fairly straightforward. An agency can be really useful as well. They can provide a lot more than just an introduction. They can provide security, obviously the aforementioned visa assistance. They may help to pay for the flights. They may take on a great many of the responsibilities. And if you can try, if you're going to go down the agency route, make sure it's an agency that's working for you as much as possible, which again is another conversation to be had. Okay. Research. This is all research, to be honest. Every last thing that I've mentioned here is research based. Where is the school? In particular, where is the school in relation to your commute? How far is it going to be? What's the bus situation like? If you're living in a place where the buses are very unreliable, like the UK, for instance, you might want to think, actually, how long is this going to take me? The perfect day might take me 20 minutes, but I know that, if you look at the performance of public transport, I might be having to allow 2 hours to get there every day. How long has the school been open? Again, an established school you would normally think would be something that's more trustworthy you can have, but not always. How many students does it have as well? And I think that's the kind of thing where you also have to think about what suits you. Do you want a large bustling place where there'll be lots of different classes, lots of teachers, or would a smaller family run school suit you better, where you're maybe one of only a few teachers, and you might think that was better for your own professional development as well. What courses does it offer? For me, if I was going to a place, I mean, obviously I don't want to teach kids anymore. I'm too old and broken to do that. But if you wanted to go to a place, maybe you think, okay, well, fine, I'm more than happy to teach kids, but I also like the opportunity to teach adults as well. So go to a school that offers both, so you get both opportunities, and to broaden your experience as you teach. How many centres does it have? And again, this is something to do with your commute. Maybe okay, fine. You've got a couple of centres that are very close, but then you might be asked to go a long way away as well to teach other lessons. And so you need to be absolutely clear about what will be offered for this. Access to a library, you would expect any school worth its salt, even in the internet age, you'd still expect to have just solid books that you can pick out and read and photocopy, and and help you prepare in all sorts of ways. Do you need to prepare a syllabus? Obviously, a syllabus here means the course of lessons as opposed to a single lesson. That is something that, in general, I would say should be the remit of the management. Or if you do it, you should be paid extra for it, because it's not something you can do in 5 minutes. That's for sure. Okay. Visualize your ideal class. If you can. It's the sort of thing that I do wonder about this, and I suppose it's the same with the idea of the perfect job in the first place. If you have very little experience of it, it's very difficult to visualize it. You sometimes need to be in there and go, actually, this isn't what I wanted. This is more what I wanted. I don't think any class really should be ideal. I think they should all be joyous in some ways and challenging in others. I would, however, say that as a new teacher, if you had to do a great many classes, I would hope that there wouldn't be too many at either extreme. That is to say, very, very low levels, A1 level, or very high levels, which might challenge you, because for the moment it's very difficult to have that spontaneous command of the language in terms of, teacher, what's the difference between this and this? Okay, this is the sort of thing that you're still working through, and it takes a good while before knowing the differences, being able to see language and see the differences, not just to see the mistakes, but to explain the mistakes. It takes quite a lot of exposure to actual, not just the language, because you know the language, but the actual explanations and the terminology used. So, as a new teacher, if you want to teach children, brilliant. But in general, you would expect a school to be giving you quite a few intermediate classes as well. Those are generally the ones where they've got enough language that they can generate a conversation, so you're not having to lead it the whole time, but they're low enough that you're not out of your depth as well. For me personally, if I were going to a new school and I was looking at whether that school was suitable for me, I'd very much want to know the kind of lessons that I'd be teaching in advance. And if I was being given, say, a lot of very, very low ones, I would hesitate, because the preparation maybe isn't as great, but they can be exhausting. They can be very challenging. And I don't think that they always help you develop as much. To do some low-level classes, fantastic, but to do them in isolation or to do them exclusively would be, I think, very, very difficult indeed. That is possibly a personal opinion. It's certainly not up on the bullet points, but I'll leave it out there all the same. What to think about a passport. If you haven't worked out a passport yet, then, well, good luck to you. A health certificate. Now, this will depend on where you're going and where you're coming from, but of course there may be all sorts of vaccinations that you will require, and of course you will need the paperwork to show them as well. So get informed about that well in advance. A police check. Now, in the UK, that is called a DBS, Disclosure and Barring Service. Every country will have a different form of them, and you will have to go through this. If I can think of any one thing that would probably discourage me from going to a school of any sort, and I'm sorry, I sound like I'm talking about the negative, but I think I am talking about things where you need to protect yourself as well. It's any school that didn't ask for any kind of criminal check from your own country. I think for me that would be that for me would be something that I'd say this maybe isn't the place that you want to be. Okay, and do your documents need to be certified as well, notarization, as they say. So, for instance, in this country, the government department for this is the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the FCDO. You go online, you'll find out what the situation is for in your country, and of course, you'll also know very quickly if you need this from the school or from wherever you're going. Okay, right. A bank account. Nowadays, bank accounts, of course, it's much easier sometimes to pay into. It's perfectly easy now. I think it's easier certainly than it was 30 years ago to pay into a bank account in another country, but you may nevertheless need to open a bank account. You do need to know what tax you need to pay, and you also need to know whether the school will be deducting that at source. I would hope that they did, because it just makes your calculations much easier, and it means you don't have to deal with the bureaucracy in a particular country or pay somebody to deal with the bureaucracy for you. Do you need to buy insurance? Well, unless the school provides it, then the answer to that is an absolutely unequivocal yes. You do need to buy insurance. Never get caught out with anything like that. So I'm talking, I suppose, here about quite a lot of things, and it does sound like I'm sort of saying look out for the pitfalls, look out for the dangers. I will repeat what I said at the start, which is that most places are great. They have a real interest in you being happy, fulfilled, and doing as well as you can. You can't expect to earn a king's ransom when you start, but you decided to be a teacher. You've probably got other ideals as well. That's why you didn't go into banking, you went into teaching. So I think there's so many great things that you could that you will get from this wherever you do it, whether you do it from home, whether you do it in another country. I think there are just so many great things about what you are doing. And also, I would say, whatever you do, wherever you go, a couple of things I'd say. First of all, stay professional. Even if you were to find yourself in a situation where you thought others were not being professional around you, you stay professional all the same. You stay on the right side. And secondly, stay open. I think one of the great things with this is that the opportunities that you will get going in different directions, you don't know where this is going to take you, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's also why I suppose I said about the perfect job at the start, because I've never met a teacher who knew what a perfect job was, or even what a perfect class was, and so I think you create that as you go, and maybe as you go, you have a better idea of what you want, where you want to go, and circumstances will change, which will actually dictate your decisions on this as well. And I think that is the wonderful thing about what we do. So best of luck with everything. I'm now going to go to sorry. This one, as you can see, a bit of planning. A bit of planning is to say the very least. The more planning, the better. Question and answer. But what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to go over that. So please, questions and answers. If you would like to send any questions, just put them in the chat, and I will bring them up on the screen. But what I will also do now is I'm just going to show you the Q&A, the feedback part here. Okay, so if you'd like to scan that, I'll leave that up for a little while, and then I'll bring that back after any questions. But anything that you want to ask now, please feel free, go ahead and do so. At the moment, I'm just going to have a quick look. Just having a quick look down to see if there's anything for the moment. Okay. Right, thank you. First question here. I'm just going to pop that up. Okay. Are jobs abroad available all year, or is it based on the school year? Okay, a lot of this is thank you, Christina. That's a lot of questions in one, and they're all really good ones. So great. Are jobs abroad available all year? Most certainly they are. Um, not just in relation to the school year, I think, but also just private, a private language school will not necessarily be based on the school year. And so people's circumstances change. People have to go home for different reasons. You might have an illness in the family and you have to leave quickly, and they need to fill a space. There are all sorts of reasons. The world, visas, passports, notwithstanding, you've got, there'll always be something there. And I think the only time, certainly in the UK, the only time where there's loads of jobs, so the peak season, so to speak, is the summer, of course, because despite the best efforts of the UK government, we still get huge numbers of students coming over to the UK. As you go. Now, is it based? Would I need to pay the country's taxes and the taxes in my home country from my home address? Normally, you need to pay the country's taxes. You will pay tax where you'll pay tax in the country where you earn it. If it's online, so you're working from home, then I assume almost certainly you would pay the taxes in your own home country. These are ones that in general, I mean, obviously I can only talk for the UK, but in general, it's very difficult to wriggle out of these things. It's either one or the other, but it is normally, if wherever you are working, wherever the money goes, that is where you pay the tax. So I hope that covers that one. Okay, sorry, this one. Okay. The best way to teach online whilst traveling. This is a great one. I mean, it's a wonderful idea that you can do this. And again, it's a possibility that certainly was no consideration when I was younger, which is a long time before the internet. So again, taking advantage of the world's opportunities now is absolutely wonderful. I mean, straightforward. I think you'll probably be more, if you're thinking about doing stuff like this, then my assumption would be you're probably a fair bit younger than I am and a fair bit more tech savvy as well. And so you can do this. You can carry everything around with you. You can carry everything around on your laptop. I suppose the only thing is to make sure, and again, you're probably more used to this than I would be, is make sure that you've always got that the connection when you've got it. I think, yeah, I mean, it's most certainly doable. I don't think that there's necessarily a best way. I honestly can't think of anything other than find your own path for this and stick to it. And it's kind of trial and error as well. I do think online, one of the big situations would be time difference with the countries that you're with the countries and the people that you are teaching. Are you going to be teaching one-to-one? So you're establishing a connection with an individual that you're going to teach online, and therefore you can make arrangements as you go and sort of say, okay, sorry, I can't manage Thursday because I'm going to be on a train. I'm going to be in the air, but I can teach you Friday. Or if you've got classes. Now, the big one I would say for online teaching, if you're teaching for a company, is reliability. It's what they want above all else. And so I would say maybe you head more towards individual students rather than teaching for a company where you're very much more tied down to these times of the week, these days, these times and these times of days. You're expected to be there and you're expected to be present. If you can make those work together, then fantastic. It really depends if you're talking about traveling almost like on a day-to-day basis, or if you're going to be 3 months in one country and then 3 months in another, which is obviously much more doable. Okay. Right. Oh, sorry, I put your question up and then put and took it back down again. Are there countries that take accents into consideration? Yeah, certainly the UK doesn't. I'll have to say that from the start. I can really only say to this that they shouldn't. We nowadays have the opinion, it's a good one, that two things about this. First of all accents are equal so long as it's clear. I think that's very important. So long as there is clarity there, you certainly don't need my accent, which is what we call received pronunciation in English. Received pronunciation. You certainly don't need that. That would be the first thing. So I think in terms of your own delivery, I think it should be clarity above all. And so I'd be very surprised if there were countries that did. And I'd be surprised and disappointed as well. And I do know sometimes you get teachers who almost have their own accent and then they have their teaching accent, and their teaching accent is a little bit more formal and a little bit clearer. I suppose we all do that to a certain extent, don't we? I mean, if I'm talking to other teachers, I have a different voice than the one that I use with students. So I'm afraid I can't give you an unequivocal no countries ever do this, but I would be surprised and disappointed at any country or any institution, because it's probably more based on the individual institution that did so. Okay. Right, reliable websites. Various of them in this, certainly that we use, things like TEFL.com is just a real basic one to start with, which I think is great. When you say reliable websites, I think really it's again your own your own rigor, I suppose, would be the word I'd use for this, in meaning that you find the website and then you can always find teachers will talk. Teachers like talking and teachers like discussing things. So really, you find something that's being offered, but make sure that the reviews around it are that they check out as well. So I suppose that would really be the way that I would say for it. Nowadays, these things are so fractured that you really have to create your own village, if you like, but that village involves really looking carefully, and you can understand, you understand, you know yourself what looks like a genuine review and what doesn't. You have to use your own experience on these things as well. If we have not completed our certificate, are we able to apply for positions? Or do you suggest waiting? I do know every now and then I get a message through from somebody at TEFL Academy saying, could you mark this person's assignment really quickly because they've got a job offer based on completion of the certificate? And with a huge sigh, of course, I do it as soon as I read the message, or as soon as I'm able to. So yes, I know that you can. I would certainly wait until you're in the vicinity of assignment C rather than waiting until before you've started the whole process. But once you've got an idea of how long it's going to take you to do an assignment, and you've got an idea that you're not going to fail, sort of not fail, be asked to resubmit a couple of times before you finally get a pass, then yeah, I think it's okay to do that. Okay. A preference for US English over UK or Antipodean English. In general, there is very little. I mean, apart from silly people like me that are a bit snobbish about UK English, then there really is no problem. Again, I come back to the same issue that we were mentioning before about clarity. The fact that one country uses pants and the other uses trousers. It's not important. The differences are absolutely minuscule when you boil it down compared to the similarities. And so long as you have an accent that's nice and clear and they can understand, then you're absolutely fine. Okay. Okay. Good question. It's always worth remembering that the vast majority of English, the reason why English is the world language nowadays is because it's spoken not by English speakers, but it's spoken by people as a common language between the two of them, neither of whom have it as their first language. That will very much depend on your on where you want to work. This is absolutely something that will depend on the institution itself. In general, to be able to teach with normal, I mean, we would normally expect, we say, an advanced level. So in other words, we're looking at in the European framework, this would be C1 or C2 level. In terms of IELTS, it's probably 6.5, something like that, maybe 6 or 6.5. You might be able to get away with lower than that if you can, if your spoken and your written are stronger. And it also depends, of course, in terms of who you are actually teaching. You need to be a good bit better than the people that you are teaching. So if you were, say, an IELTS 6.5, if I was a director of studies, I probably wouldn't be happy with having you teaching advanced students. I'd expect you to maybe go with intermediate students and above. It's also a question of where you are teaching. It would be probably quite difficult to teach in England because we have no shortage of native speakers in the first place. On the other hand, in many parts of the world, it's more than acceptable. And of course, in many parts of the world, you hardly ever meet an advanced speaker anyway. You know, I remember we used to do teaching. We used to provide teacher training for teachers in a vast school in China. As far as I recall, it had about 25,000 students, which is kind of like its own city almost. And there wasn't a teacher there that was above upper intermediate level, and so we were going in to try to help them with their level, with their levels, and with their teaching methodology as well, which of course is what you've been learning on the course. In other words, not being didactic, not just standing there at the front and telling them how to do it, but actually helping them to generate English themselves. So there's quite a lot we were doing there, but the actual basic level there was not high, and yet it was an effective and successful school. So it's really a question of both where in the world, and secondly, the individual institution, which will, and I suppose thirdly, the students that they're teaching as well. Okay. I'm sorry that really for all of you, I cannot give you definitive responses, and that's simply because the world's a big place, and that's, you know, that's one of the reasons that you're doing the course, and why hopefully you're going out and doing different things, vastly different things, as well. Okay. Good question. As a new teacher without any experience, what is the likelihood to be hired at a school abroad? That will depend on quite a lot of things. I think that will depend on how you are at interview. If you are committed to learning as well, I think you need to think of don't try to pretend that you're anything that you're not when it comes to an interview. And a huge number of say directors of study, which I've been in my past, are actually much more interested in somebody who presents themselves well, who is going to represent the school well, and who really wants to learn. Is often comes across as being better than somebody with 20 years experience who has that kind of, yeah, been there, done that, I can do it in my sleep, which is pretty toxic in a language school. Having people, regardless of age, but having people who are enthusiastic and who are going to learn from every lesson that they do, that's a real plus. So think about what you want out of it. Make sure that you explain to your interviewer what you want, and you've got a good chance. And yes, of course, there are some schools who will look at your CV and go, no teaching experience. No, you're not going to. World's a big place. There's plenty of schools out there, and there's plenty of good schools who will still take you if they like what they see and they like what they hear in terms of, yeah, you want to kick on, and you want to take this seriously. So I think the way you present yourself is everything. And yes, you will find some good places that will still take you on without experience. Okay, I'm just, yeah, sorry, I've left the survey up there, so I hope you've all had a chance to do the QR there. Excuse me, my voice is now going, so probably time to wrap up now. Thank you very much. Thank you for those really good questions, really interesting, and I think they also show the divergence in you and your expectations, and your, what you hope to be doing in the future as well, which is fabulous. So thank you very much, and I will stop there. Much appreciated. Okay, take care.